The Virelian patrol ship moved slowly through the dark edge of the galaxy. The region was quiet, almost forgotten. No trade ships passed through this area. No colonies existed here. It was the kind of place explorers only visited when they had no other mission. Captain Lauren stood calmly on the command deck, watching the endless stars outside the large viewing window. His crew worked quietly at their stations. The patrol was routine, and nothing unusual had happened for days. Then suddenly a sharp alarm broke the silence. "Captain, we are detecting something," the sensor officer said with surprise. Lauren turned toward the console. "Report. A small object drifting near the asteroid belt. It appears to be an escape pod." The captain stepped closer to the screen. The pod looked badly damaged. Parts of its metal shell were burned and broken, and its power signal was extremely weak. "Life signs?" Lauren asked. The officer paused for a moment while scanning the data. "Yes, one life form inside. Very weak." Another officer leaned closer to the screen and suddenly froze. "Captain, the biological scan shows something unusual." Lauren frowned slightly. "Explain." The officer swallowed nervously. "It's a human." The entire command deck became silent. Every species in the galaxy knew the rule. The Galactic Council had repeated it many times to every civilization. Do not interfere with humans. Humans were not well understood. Their history was filled with strange stories. Some described them as reckless and emotional. Others described them as incredibly loyal and dangerously protective. No one truly knew the truth. But every species agreed on one thing. It was better to stay away from humans. Captain Lauren looked at the damaged escape pod again. The life signal was growing weaker every second. "If we do nothing," the medical officer said quietly, "the human will die within minutes." One of the crew members spoke quickly. "Captain, we must not interfere. If the council learns we helped a human, there could be consequences." Another officer nodded. "Humans bring trouble. Everyone knows this." The captain remained silent for a long moment. His eyes stayed fixed on the weak blinking light on the scanner. Inside that small pod was a living being slowly dying in the darkness of space. Finally, Captain Lauren made his decision. "Bring the pod aboard." Several crew members looked shocked. "Captain, the council orders." "I know the orders," Lauren interrupted calmly. "But we are explorers, not cowards." The tractor beam activated, and the small escape pod slowly moved toward the ship's docking bay. Moments later the crew gathered inside the medical chamber as the damaged pod was opened. Inside lay a human male wearing a torn military uniform. His face showed signs of injury, and his breathing was weak. The Virelian doctors quickly began treatment. Medical scanners surrounded the human as they worked to stabilize him. For several long hours the doctors struggled to keep him alive. Finally, the life signs became stronger. Then something happened. The human's eyes slowly opened. He looked around at the strange alien faces surrounding him. For a moment he seemed confused. Then he spoke with a weak voice. "Where am I?" Captain Lauren stepped forward. "You are safe aboard a Virelian patrol ship." The human studied the captain carefully. Despite his injuries, there was a strange calm confidence in his eyes. "Did you rescue me?" he asked. "Yes," Lauren replied. The human gave a small tired smile. "Then I owe you my life." He paused for a moment before speaking again. "My name is Commander Daniel Hayes, of the United Earth Defense Fleet." The room became quiet again. The captain tilted his head slightly. "Earth Defense Fleet." The human nodded slowly. Then he said something that made several crew members uneasy. "My distress beacon was activated before my pod lost power." He looked toward the large window where the stars shined quietly. "If Earth received that signal, They will come. One of the crew members laughed nervously. For one human. Commander Hayes slowly turned his head toward them. Yes, he said calmly. For one human. Far away, on the distant blue planet called Earth, powerful antennas had already received the signal. Inside a massive command center, red warning lights flashed across large holographic displays. An officer spoke with urgency. Emergency beacon confirmed. Commander Hayes is alive but stranded beyond human territory. The room fell silent. Then the fleet commander gave a single order. Mobilize the rescue fleets. Across Earth's orbit, hundreds of warships powered their engines. Massive carriers, destroyers, and battle cruisers began preparing for warp travel. Humanity had received the signal. And when humans come to rescue one of their own, they never come quietly. The Virilian patrol ship floated quietly in deep space as Commander Daniel Hayes slowly recovered inside the medical chamber. The alien doctors had done everything they could, and his condition was finally stable. His injuries were serious, but humans were known for their strong bodies and stubborn will to survive. Captain Lauren visited the medical room the next cycle. Commander Hayes was sitting upright now, watching the stars through the transparent wall of the chamber. His expression was calm, but there was something serious in his eyes. You are healing faster than we expected, Captain Lauren said. Hayes gave a small smile. Humans are difficult to break. The captain stood beside him for a moment. Earlier you said something strange, Lauren continued. You said Earth would come for you. Hayes slowly looked toward the captain. Yes. The captain tilted his head slightly. You were alone in a small escape pod. Surely your people would not send a fleet across the galaxy for one person. For a moment the human said nothing. Then he spoke quietly. You don't understand humanity yet. Captain Lauren waited. Hayes continued. Humans fight with each other sometimes. We argue. We compete. But when one of us is in danger, the entire species stands together. The captain considered those words carefully. That seems inefficient. Hayes laughed softly. Maybe. But it works. At that moment, an alarm suddenly sounded across the ship. The sensor officer's voice echoed through the corridors. Captain to the command deck immediately. Lauren quickly moved through the ship and entered the command center. The crew looked nervous. What is happening? The captain asked. The sensor officer pointed toward the main holographic display. Captain, we are detecting massive warp disturbances far outside the system. Lauren studied the readings. How many ships? The officer hesitated before answering. At first we thought it was a small fleet. He adjusted the scanner. But the numbers keep increasing. The holographic display zoomed outward, showing dozens of bright signals. Then hundreds. Then even more. The room became silent. That cannot be correct, one crew member whispered. The officer shook his head. Our scanners are working perfectly. Captain Lauren stared at the screen. Identify the ships. The system analyzed the signals for several seconds. Then a symbol appeared beside every detected vessel. The symbol of Earth. Another officer spoke nervously. Captain, those ships are heading directly toward this sector. Lauren slowly realized something. He turned toward the communication officer. Contact Commander Hayes. Moments later the human entered the command deck. He walked slowly but confidently despite his injuries. His eyes immediately moved to the holographic display. The moment he saw the signals, he sighed. They came faster than I expected. Captain Lauren looked at him. How many ships are we detecting? Hayes studied the screen. That's only the advance fleet. The crew stared at him in shock. Advance fleet, someone repeated. Hayes nodded. Yes. The sensor officer spoke again. Captain, More warp signatures are appearing. The display suddenly filled with new signals. Lines of human warships began emerging from hyperspace across the outer edge of the star system. Some ships were enormous. Long carriers surrounded by fighter escorts. Heavy battle cruisers with massive weapon arrays. Support vessels and defense platforms. The number kept rising. 200. 400. 800. The Virilians had never seen a fleet this large in their entire history. Captain Lauren slowly turned toward the human commander. All of this, for you. Hayes folded his arms calmly. Not exactly. The captain waited. The human smiled slightly. They came because someone attacked a human officer. He looked around the command deck. And humans take that very seriously. Suddenly a powerful signal appeared on the communication console. Captain, the communication officer said nervously, we are receiving a direct transmission. From who? Lauren asked. The officer swallowed. From the flagship of the United Earth Defense Fleet. The room became silent. Captain Lauren nodded slowly. Put it on screen. A large holographic image appeared in the center of the command deck. A human admiral wearing a dark uniform looked directly at them. His voice was calm but powerful. This is Admiral Rebecca Carter of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Her eyes briefly moved across the alien crew before focusing on Commander Hayes. Commander, we received your signal. Hayes gave a respectful nod. I expected you would. The Admiral looked toward Captain Lauren. Our sensors show that your ship rescued one of our officers. Lauren answered carefully. Yes. We found him drifting in space. The Admiral paused for a moment. Then she said something that made the entire crew uneasy. Then you should know something important. Behind her, the view of space showed endless human warships continuing to arrive. More and more every second. Admiral Carter spoke again. The fleets you see are only the beginning. She leaned slightly forward. Because when someone attacks a human, her voice became colder. Humanity responds. The Virilian patrol ship drifted quietly as the command deck stared at the massive human fleet forming across the star system. More ships continued arriving every minute. Bright flashes of warp light appeared again and again as human vessels exited hyperspace. The stars themselves seemed to move as the enormous fleet spread across the dark void. Captain Lauren had spent his entire life exploring space, but he had never seen anything like this. Report the total number, he ordered. The sensor officer checked the scanner again. His voice sounded almost uncertain. Current count, 1,312 human vessels. Several crew members gasped. And they are still arriving. Commander Hayes stood quietly near the viewing window. His face showed no fear. In fact, he looked almost relieved. Captain Lauren slowly turned toward him. You knew this would happen. Hayes nodded calmly. Yes. The captain gestured toward the endless warships outside. This is not a rescue mission. No, Hayes replied. This is standard procedure. The captain looked confused. Standard? Hayes turned toward the crew. Every human officer carries a distress beacon. When it activates outside human territory, the fleet assumes one thing. And what is that? Lauren asked. That the officer may have been captured, or attacked. The command deck became quiet. And when that happens, the captain asked. Hayes looked back out at the fleet. Humanity prepares for war. At that moment another message arrived from the human flagship. The holographic image of Admiral Rebecca Carter appeared again. But this time the background behind her had changed. The camera showed the massive bridge of a human battle carrier. Huge tactical displays surrounded the room. Officers moved quickly between stations. The scale of the ship alone was terrifying. Commander Hayes, Admiral Carter said, "Our fleet is now in position." Hayes nodded slightly. "Good to see you, Admiral." Captain Loren stepped forward. "Admiral, we must clarify something." Carter looked at him. "Speak." "Our ship did not attack your officer. We rescued him." For a moment the Admiral said nothing. Then she nodded slowly. "Yes. Our sensors confirmed that." The tension on the Virilian ship eased slightly. But only slightly. Captain Loren asked the question that worried him the most. "Then why bring such a massive fleet?" Admiral Carter's expression remained calm. "Because we did not know who attacked him." She turned toward one of her officers. A holographic map of the system appeared. "Commander Hayes' ship was destroyed near this sector," she explained. The map showed several scattered wreckage signals. Someone ambushed a human military vessel. Captain Loren studied the map. "You believe the attackers may still be nearby?" The Admiral nodded. "That is a possibility." Hayes crossed his arms. "Pirates?" he asked. Carter shook her head. "Unlikely." She zoomed the map closer. "Your ship was attacked with extremely advanced weapons." The human officers around her looked serious. This was not random. Captain Loren felt uneasy. "Then who attacked the commander?" Before the Admiral could answer, the sensor officer on the Virilian ship suddenly shouted. "Captain!" Everyone turned toward him. "What is it?" Loren asked. The officer pointed at the scanner. New warp signatures appearing. The room froze. "Human ships?" the captain asked. The officer shook his head slowly. "No." The holographic map updated. New red signals began appearing at the far edge of the system. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Admiral Carter saw the change immediately. Her voice became sharp. "Identify those vessels." The scanner struggled to process the incoming data. Finally the computer displayed the answer. The symbol that appeared was one every species in the galaxy feared. The Zereth Dominion. An aggressive empire known for conquering weaker civilizations. Captain Loren's voice dropped. "The Zereth are here." The sensor officer continued reading the data. Over 800 warships and increasing. The tension in the room grew instantly. The Zereth Dominion was famous for one thing. They never attacked unless they believed victory was guaranteed. Admiral Carter's expression hardened. "So, they were responsible." Hayes looked toward the approaching fleet. "They attacked my patrol ship." Carter nodded. "Yes." On the holographic display the two massive fleets faced each other across the star system. Thousands of human ships. Hundreds of Zereth warships. Captain Loren suddenly realized something frightening. His small patrol ship was floating directly between them. "Admiral," he said carefully, "this system is about to become a battlefield." Admiral Carter gave a calm answer. "It already is." The Zereth fleet began forming attack formations. Their warships powered their weapons. A cold silence filled the command deck. Commander Hayes looked toward Captain Loren. "You saved my life," he said quietly. The captain nodded. "Yes." Hayes gave a small confident smile. "Then you should move your ship behind our fleet." Loren looked confused. "Why?" Hayes turned back toward the endless line of human warships. "Because the Zereth just made a very big mistake." He paused for a moment before finishing the sentence. "They attacked a human." Outside the viewing window, thousands of human warships slowly activated their weapons. And the galaxy was about to witness exactly what that meant. The Virilian patrol ship quickly moved behind the massive wall of human warships. Captain Loren ordered full retreat thrusters as the crew worked nervously at their stations. None of them had ever been this close to a war between powerful empires. Outside the viewing window, the human fleet looked endless. Rows of enormous battle carriers floated like silent giants. Hundreds of destroyers formed defensive lines around them. Smaller fighter craft launched from their hangars and moved into position like swarms of metal birds. Commander Hayes stood calmly beside the viewing screen. "You should stay behind the defense line," he said to Captain Lauren. "Human ships will protect you here." Lauren studied the battlefield forming in front of them. The Zereth Dominion fleet was spreading across the other side of the system. Their ships were dark, sharp, and heavily armored. Long red weapon arrays glowed across their hulls as their power systems charged. "They look ready for war," Lauren said quietly. Hayes nodded. "They always are." Suddenly the communication console lit up again. A new transmission was incoming. The communication officer looked uneasy. "Captain, it's coming from the Zereth fleet." Captain Lauren hesitated before answering. "Put it on screen." A tall alien figure appeared in the holographic display. His armor was black and covered with sharp metallic edges. His glowing yellow eyes stared coldly at the room. "I am War Commander Croth of the Zereth Dominion," the alien voice echoed. His gaze slowly moved across the Virelian crew before stopping on Commander Hayes. "So, the human survived." Hayes stepped forward. "You attacked my patrol ship." Croth smiled slightly. "Yes." The Virelian crew looked shocked at how calmly he admitted it. Croth continued speaking. "The Zereth Dominion has been studying humanity for many cycles. We believed humans were still weak outside their territory." He looked toward the massive human fleet now surrounding the system. "It appears we underestimated you." Captain Lauren watched nervously as the alien commander spoke. "Then leave this system," Hayes replied. Croth laughed softly. "That will not happen." He pointed toward the human fleet behind Hayes. "You sent thousands of ships to rescue one officer." His voice became darker. "That makes humanity predictable." Hayes remained calm. "How?" Croth leaned forward slightly. "Because it proves humans are controlled by emotion." The command deck became silent. Croth continued. "You care too much about individual lives. That weakness will destroy you one day." For a moment Hayes said nothing. Then he gave a small smile. "Actually," he replied quietly, "that's our greatest strength." Croth's eyes narrowed. "We will see." The transmission ended suddenly. On the tactical display the Zereth fleet began moving forward. Rows of their warships advanced in perfect attack formation. "Enemy weapons charging," the Virelian sensor officer shouted. Captain Lauren felt tension rising across his crew. But the human fleet remained completely calm. Admiral Carter's voice suddenly appeared across every channel. "All human vessels prepare for engagement." Her voice was clear and confident. "This is not just a battle." The tactical screens showed thousands of human weapons systems activating. Heavy rail cannons rotated into position. Missile launchers opened across the surface of the massive carriers. Fighter wings prepared to launch. "This is a message," Carter continued. The Zereth fleet began firing first. Bright red beams shot across the darkness of space as the first wave of attacks rushed toward the human formation. Captain Lauren held his breath. But something incredible happened. The human ships didn't panic. They moved. Massive shield barriers appeared across the front line of the fleet. The red beams slammed against the shields and exploded into bright flashes of light. "Shields holding," a human officer reported through the open channel. Admiral Carter gave her next command. "Return fire." Suddenly thousands of human weapons fired at the same time. The darkness of space exploded with light. Long streams of railgun projectiles shot across the battlefield at impossible speeds. Missile swarms spread out like storms of fire. Fighter squadrons raced forward through the chaos. The Zereth fleet tried to defend itself. But the human attack was overwhelming. Within seconds several Zereth ships were destroyed. Massive explosions lit up the star system. Captain Lauren stared in shock. This is impossible. Commander Hayes watched the battle calmly. No, he said. This is human strategy. More Zereth ships began breaking apart under the heavy assault. The alien fleet had expected fear. They had expected hesitation. But the humans showed neither. Admiral Carter spoke again across the fleet. Push forward. The human warships advanced like a moving wall of steel and fire. Behind them, the Virillian patrol ship remained safe. Captain Lauren slowly realized something important. The human fleet was not just fighting a battle. They were protecting the small alien ship that had saved one human life. And the Zereth Dominion was learning a painful lesson. Humanity would cross the entire galaxy for one person. But if someone threatened that person, humanity would bring the full power of Earth. The battle across the star system had lasted less than 20 minutes. But for Captain Lauren and the crew of the Virillian patrol ship, it felt much longer. Outside their viewing window, the battlefield was slowly becoming quiet again. Pieces of destroyed Zereth warships drifted through space like dark metal ghosts. Fires still burned across broken hulls, and small explosions continued to flash in the distance. The massive human fleet remained in perfect formation. Thousands of ships still filled the system, their weapons ready, their shields glowing faintly like silent guardians. Captain Lauren stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "Report the enemy status," he asked quietly. The sensor officer checked the scanners carefully. "The Zereth fleet is retreating," he said. Several red signals on the screen were already turning away from the battlefield. The remaining Zereth ships were activating their warp drives and escaping into hyperspace. "They have lost over half their fleet," the officer continued. "Their command ship has also withdrawn." The command deck became silent. The Virillians had expected a long and brutal war. Instead, the battle had ended almost immediately. Commander Hayes folded his arms calmly as he watched the retreating enemy. "They know when they've lost," he said. Captain Lauren slowly turned toward him. "They attacked you, and humanity answered with an entire armada." Hayes nodded slightly. "That's how humans work." Before Lauren could reply, a message signal appeared again. "Captain," the communication officer said, "the human flagship is requesting a direct channel." "Open it," Lauren answered. The holographic image of Admiral Rebecca Carter appeared once more. Behind her, the bridge of the massive human battle carrier looked busy but controlled. Officers continued to monitor the battlefield while repair crews moved between stations. "Commander Hayes," Carter said. Hayes nodded respectfully. "Admiral. Your rescue operation is complete," she said. Hayes smiled slightly. "I noticed." Carter's attention then shifted toward Captain Lauren and the Virillian crew. "You are Captain Lauren of the Virillian patrol vessel." "Yes," Lauren replied. The Admiral gave a small nod. "Our records confirm that your crew rescued Commander Hayes from his damaged escape pod." "That is correct." For a moment Carter said nothing. Then she spoke again. "Humanity is grateful." The simple word surprised the entire Virillian crew. Hayes stepped closer to the communication screen. "I told you humans value loyalty." Admiral Carter continued speaking. "You had every reason to ignore the escape pod. The Galactic Council has warned many species to avoid human involvement." Captain Lauren nodded slowly. "Yes, we knew the risk. Yet you chose to save him anyway." Lauren answered honestly. "A life was in danger." For a moment the Admiral simply looked at him. Then she smiled slightly. "That decision may have saved your entire civilization." The Virillian crew looked confused. Carter activated another holographic display. A map of nearby sectors appeared. Before attacking Commander Hayes' ship, the Zereth Dominion had already begun planning expansion into this region. Several red markers appeared across the map. Your homeworld was one of their future targets. Captain Lauren felt a chill. They were planning to invade us. Yes, Carter said. But after today, that will never happen. The Admiral zoomed the map outward. Human fleet markers began appearing around the Virelian territories. Earth is placing defense patrols across your borders. The room became completely silent. You are protecting us? Lauren asked. Hayes smiled. You protected one human. He looked around the command deck. For humanity, that matters. Admiral Carter spoke again. From this moment forward, the Virelian Republic is recognized as a protected ally of Earth. Several Virelian officers looked stunned. Their small exploration civilization had just become an ally of the most powerful fleet they had ever seen. Hayes turned toward Captain Lauren. You didn't know who I was when you saved me. No, Lauren admitted. But you saved me anyway. Hayes extended his hand toward the captain, using the traditional human gesture of trust. And humans never forget those who help us. Captain Lauren carefully took the human's hand. Outside the viewing window, the enormous human fleet slowly began to reposition. Some ships prepared to escort Commander Hayes back to Earth. Others moved toward the edges of Virelian space to begin their new patrol routes. Across the galaxy, other civilizations were already receiving the news. The Zereth Dominion had attacked a single human officer. And in response, humanity had crossed the stars with the full power of Earth. But the galaxy also learned something else that day. Saving one human might seem like a small act. But sometimes, saving one human means gaining the loyalty of an entire species. And when that species is humanity, that loyalty can change the fate of worlds.